Just want to let you know that the problem is the problem, not the person. Hey, I'm just going to be giving you a little bit of teaching about problems and how we can so easily over personalize them and make them ourselves. And one of the things that I have found is that it is really, really sneaky about problems, and especially in when you're a child, is that they can actually shape your identity, and they can kind of morph into your brain and sneak into your thinking so much so that you start to begin to see yourself as a problem. And worse still is when others land words on you, words as such as, "You're such a problem." "You're so full of problems." They are a problem child. Have you ever heard any of those sort of comments or others similar to them land on your soul? And you start, especially as a child, you start to take them in, and they start to actually shape how you think about yourself and how you think about problems that you face. But it's just not true. It's not healthy. It's not good. It's like a dark hole dwelling and entombment. And it's a death cloak of overwhelming, it can create this overwhelming death cloak of depression and anxiety. And again, I say it's just not true. Despite all of one's self loathing and self condemnation, there is a difference. Yes, I know that's hard for some of you to believe, but you are not a problem. Just you're not a problem. You are a person that will have problems and troubles, and they kind of like sit alongside us, like on a park bench. There's you, and then there's your problems. And I've got these two little pictures: person and problem, problem and person, how they are separate. They are not who you are. Your problems are not who you are. The problem is the problem. The issue is an addiction, the habit, the sleep patterns, the budget, the lack of communication skills, the medical condition, the lack of food, the lack of a place to sleep at night. And when we can separate out and identify the issue and with all its undergirding problems, then we can use something like a problem solving sheet and a stand plan. These are all things that I've got links in the show notes below too. And when we start to use those things, we can actually start to gain a little bit of confidence about actually solving the problems that we face, millimeter at a time. And then we can do it again and again and again and again with every new issue that comes along. All of this, I believe, happens within the context of what I call a nurture nest. I've talked about that many times, but it's basically a place where people, friends, family, co-workers, and so on, can be part of your problem-solving community that can actually help you work through the problems that you face, and to keep telling you you are not a problem. You have problems. And one of the one of the earliest books I read when I got into mental health work was "Why Do Christians Shoot Their Wounded?" Helping, not hurting those with emotional difficulties. And Dwight L. Carlson wrote that. It's a great book and it's a great title. And I'd just begun to work in a halfway house with people who were just leaving psychiatric hospitals. I love them. But many in our society, and still do, and in our church, saw these people as problems. All right? Saw the people as problems. Many still do. Instead, these people are not problems, but people who, like all of us, carry problems. Many of the struggles that can be resolved, many of them can be resolved, and a new life can be found. When we separate out the problem from the person, that's when we can offer really new hope for a different future, and people can gain confidence and change. and make newness. Hey, and if I've written a whole lot of stuff about problem solving, and there's a link in the show notes about that, where you can get help. And if you've got any questions, you can email. But I thought I'd share you some quotes that I found. And this is a bit of a techie one. Personalization is a cognitive distortion where individuals attribute the entire blame for an event or situation on themselves or others, even when there is little to no justification for doing so. It is a misplaced sense of responsibility that does not account for external factors or circumstances beyond one's control. This blame could be directed towards oneself or unfairly projected onto another person. Read it again by coming over and looking at the website. David Riddell, he says, like faded paintings on the wall that one never sees because they've always been there, so are the assumptions that govern our lives. David Riddell. And what we're talking about there is the assumption that I'm a problem. Assumptions are what make the world go round, but they can also create hell on earth until they're exposed and carefully examined. To be an individual is to attempt to find your identity and meaning in yourself in isolation. To be a person is to live in a way that recognizes your unique identity and meaning will always be found in relationships. Personhood is dynamic and relational, never static or individual. It is into being, not into dependence. And I need others, David Bennett. I need others to help me identify myself away from my problems. Richard Rohr says that the best ally of God is what is. Not what should be or could be, what needs to be, but what is. Ishness will lead us to perfect love. And Lamont says reality is unforgivably complex. And Richard Rohr says reality itself, my limited and sometimes misinterpreted experience, is a revelationary place for God. But for some reason, we prefer fabricated realities to the strong, sensitizing face of what is. The spiritual life begins with accepting and living our reality. Honesty, David Bennett says, forces me to conclude that the spiritual path can lead to an escape from a robust commitment to reality. And what I'm talking about there is the reality of problems, and that we need to see them as problems and address them through just good problem solving sheets, stand plans, etc. Separating them out from the personage. Okay, some questions. How much do you over personalize issues? Why do you do that? I do it, but why do you do it? Two, what helps you see the problem simply for what it is? A problem. Three, helping someone sift through the problems they have takes time. Why do we pull back from listening deep? And here's an exercise. What problems have shaped your identity? Journal about them and how to separate yourself from a false identity that has been allowed to form. Hey, I hope you've found this helpful, interesting. I think it's one of the big things that we need to learn about is to separate the problem away from the person. And if you want to read more, yep, there's lots of notes in the show notes. If you want to come over or if you want to send me an email, it's barry@turningthepage.co.nz. And just a particularly big thank you to those people who give a little bit, who donate to help me keep putting this stuff out. So if you'd like to be one, there's a link again in the show notes. Okay. Until next time, start to identify the problem. Separate it out from being a person. Okay. Bye.